another parashah. Aren't we lucky?
Oh, yeah.
And this week
We're starting a new book.
So
it's called Bamidbar. Interesting. I always find it interesting the way we traditionally have started saying these things, because the word is Bamidbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai, but we don't say the Sinai bit. We just call it Bamidbar. But the vowelization suddenly changes to the wilderness of to in the wilderness. So we say the word in the verse is Bamidbar, meaning in the wilderness of.
Shva. Right?
That's with a shva, very good. And we say Bamidbar, as in with the patach underneath the base, as in the wilderness.
So it's like a headline, but it's actually not the correct vowelization.
It's one of the few times you see that.
So why do you?
I honestly don't know. I think it's probably just because since we're dropping
the Sinai
bit, so it would be weird to say in the wilderness of. But interesting.
And none of the other Sfarim of the Torah have got two names. Like it could have been Bamidbar Sinai.
It could be,
but it wasn't.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that just traditionally over time, the Jewish community has decided.
Yeah, minhag, minhag. So, all right. So
what's it about? So the main focus of the parasha is counting. The Jewish people are counted according to the different tribes. Then towards the end, the Leviim are promoted to replace the firstborns. The firstborns were supposed to be the ones who would, run the temple, whatever, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the temple. They were replaced by the Leviim. And they are also counted, although some of the counting continues in next week's parasha of 𝗦𝗹𝘀𝗦𝗧.
Right. The longest parasha in the Torah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So let's talk about counting.
Okay. Seeing as we're in the sphere right now, which is all true. Counting. Mm-hmm. So, and I was talking to my daughter about counting this morning towards the end of her school life in 2 years. And I asked her, are you counting up
or down?
Or are you counting down? Right. And I say, I'm counting up always, because it's always like a progression and positive.
That's right. That's the big question they ask about the Sephira.
Right.
Because when you're just waiting for something, you count down to it. It's like,
get it out of the way.
Exactly. But when the journey itself is something growthful, and each day is another achievement, so then you sort of count. I'm counting up. The way I like to think of it is, you want to go on holiday, you need £10,000, because we're English.
Yeah, obviously.
£10,000 to go on your cruise that you want to go on, or whatever it is. And you need to work 50 days to get that amount of money. That would be good. Yep. 50 days to get that amount of money. So each day you're adding on, I've got this much money now, and I've got this much money, because the journey itself is part of that achievement. So that's why we're counting up, because each day we're supposed to be growing.
That's right.
But let's talk about the counting here. When you count en masse, you've got the whole Jewish people, you're counting en masse.
Yeah.
I've noticed that there's two different types of counting. There's the counting where the individual gets lost in that number. Mm-hmm. I mean, to take it as an extreme, a number on an arm.
Okay, I see, yeah. I see where you're going.
But even without that, I always feel uncomfortable when we talk about 6 million, or more recently when we talk about 1,200, or even when we talk about the number of hostages that we're still waiting for.
Why specifically?
Because whenever we talk about numbers, I feel that we're losing the individual. Each person is an olam malay. Each person is a whole world. And as soon as we group people together in numbers, we've lost that. We've lost, when you hear about 6 million, nobody knows what 6 million means. Right. Really, what we should be doing is examining the life of this individual person, seeing what they had, seeing what they lost, seeing what we as the Jewish people lost by that person not being there. And more than that, as we know from the whole story with Cain and Abel, with Cain and Hevel, where the verse says that God says to Cain, the voices of the bloods The sounds of the bloods of your brother are calling out to me.
In the plural.
In the plural, the bloods.
Bit strange,
and one of the explanations there is that Cain didn't just kill Hevel, he killed Hevel and everything that was going to come out from him, everything he was going to achieve, all the generations that were going to come out from him.
His potential as a human, all that stuff.
And I feel that when we're talking about big numbers like that, we lose that into it. I feel about the 1,200. You know, everybody's throwing around a number, and I understand it because it creates an effect. Big numbers create effects. And
it summarizes. I mean, but I do. Obviously, it would be impossible to, whenever you're talking about a subject like this, to name everyone.
Of course.
But you're right. It removes the individuality and it groups everyone, and then you become a number. You know how people say, "Don't treat me like a number. I'm a person, not a number." Like, especially in medicine.
Oh yeah.
Don't see me
I'm not
as
just part of the stats.
I'm not a disease. I'm not a stat, and all this. So that's the area you're talking about. So therefore,
what I feel is that what we should be doing with this sort of thing is we should be taking individuals. Of course, we need to talk about numbers. We need to talk about numbers. We need to speak to the world about numbers. Make sure the world knows. Okay. But for ourselves, we should be doing individual studies. And I've seen some of the media are taking, you can look, Times of Israel, for example, has got a whole page looking at the individual lives of each person that we've lost. I think that's very, very important. Right. On 𝗦𝗹𝘀𝗧, I went with a friend of mine, Aaron Hyman. He goes every year. There's a group of people called 𝗦𝗹𝘀𝗀𝗏, which means last branch.
Aaron, the photographer?
Aaron Hyman. He's not a photographer.
Oh, no, okay. I think of someone else.
He's part of a group who go and visit people who were the last remaining members of their family, normally Holocaust survivors, who then fell fighting for Israel.
Wow.
They go to sort of in between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaShoah, they go to 𝗥𝗯𝗯𝗶, to the military cemetery, and they visit just 6, the same 6 every year, 6 graves. They talk about their lives, and these are the 6 final branches that they have taken upon themselves to look after, to watch over. They say Kaddish at their graves.
Wow, so nice.
They say the 𝗦𝗹𝘀𝗀𝗡𝗏 Rachamim prayer, memorial prayer. I think we should be doing more than that. This is my first time going. I went with him. He asked me if I'd like to come. I brought some of my students with, and it gave an extra personal meaning to this period of time. We're not just a number. Now, on the other side, the Medrash, and Rashi brings the Medrash on the first verse of this week's parashah, that we see that God keeps on counting us, or instructing us to count ourselves when we're in the desert again and again and again. So the Medrash says he keeps on counting us because he has so much love for us.
Checking
in. Now, the way I view that is, somebody who's got, he's collected diamonds over the years, right? Each diamond, or perhaps memorabilia. Each diamond has got its own beauty to it. Each memorabilia reminds him of something that happened in his life. And he'll sit down regularly and he'll count them. He'll look over them. Oh, look at this one. Yes, I remember this one. I got this back in...
It will trigger a memory. Not just nostalgia, but it's meaningful to them.
Meaningful. And each one of those things, it's not just a counting where I've got a number and, okay, this is the number. It's a number of closeness. I'm connected to each individual thing. And when I count them, it's just to go over the beauty of each individual person.
So nice.
That is what I see this counting to be. The counting of this week's parashah is not just grouping us together in a number where we lose our individuality. On the contrary, it's a counting to tell each one of us that we count.
Oh, very nice.
That we mean something, that you've got your skills, I've got my skills. By the way, as an example of this, they never actually count them. Each person had to give a half shekel. And then the half shekel was counted. And why a half? Because each one of us needs to know that we're not whole.
Right.
I need you, you need me. This is the way we work. You got your skills, I got my skills. When we're all fulfilling our responsibility and living up to those skills, so then we make a whole.
We make a nation. It's like they're counting people's contribution.
Oh yeah.
In a metaphorical sense,
that.
it's a coin, but it's the act of saying, I'm not a number because you're not given a number. Here's my contribution. It's a metaphor.
Right. So you've got amazing skills in videography,
That's right.
in all the different things that you've trained and you naturally have.
Yeah.
I've got my skills, you know, I'm an optometrist. I do low vision. I also do teaching.
Right.
Perhaps skills in speaking, communicating ideas. There'll be somebody else who's got different skills. This, by the way, is not arrogance.
No.
Arrogance is where I'm so aware of my skills that I look down upon you because you don't have those skills.
Or you say, I should be doing those skills. Or I should be doing that. I could do that better than you, even if you're useless.
Right, but I actually don't think that's arrogance. I think that's false projected arrogance to cover up a sort of a low self-esteem.
Okay.
But real arrogance, which you don't get that much, but real arrogance is, it's actually difficult for me to be in the same room as you because I'm a rabbi. And who are you?
Right, wow.
I mean, if that was real,
I understand.
That's not real.
It's okay. I'm good.
But if that was real, that would be like, you know,
That is
it's
arrogance,
like, who are you? And,
Yeah.
and looking down. If you believe in a director, meaning with a capital D,
Yeah.
who has chosen each one of us to fulfill a role and given us the individual skills to fill that role, and who doesn't make mistakes, there's no place for arrogance. I've been given certain skills. I should be aware of them, not arrogant with them. I'm just aware that he's given me those skills, and that gives me a feeling of responsibility, not of arrogance.
The tough kid of being alive.
Exactly. And then together, when we all fulfill that responsibility, then we fulfill a whole.
This show is brought to you by Dream Digital Art, the place to buy the coolest Jewish and Israel-related art pieces and products. As a schmoozing podcast fan, you'll get 10% off your online order with the promo code shmooze10.